Well, ever since I've been away, there's been a lot of cruise news. So let's talk about that. So, the Wonder of the Seas, which is now on her maiden voyage as I record this, with her big central park and double-decker lifeboats. Yeah, that ship's ugly. But the rest of the Oasis class currently is not. Why is this? Well, it's because these big text on the side of the ship. I want to talk about it because it ruins the look, and usually Royal Caribbean ships never really ever had a livery, and they still don't exactly. Because if you see here, this is the Wonder of the Seas before the paint job, so they were going to make her look good, but they decided not to. Like, why? Just why? And I'm still gonna go on the Oasis of the Seas someday, but for now, not the Wonder, because the Wonder just looks weird. They started this trend with the Odyssey of the Seas, and they actually don't put the name in normal text on the front anymore. Something annoying I've come across a lot as a ship enthusiast is people thinking that the name of the ship goes plastered across the side of every single ship that exists. While this is true for actually nothing, it's somewhat true for cargo ships. For example, this ship here, people think this is called the Maersk Line. This ship here, you may have heard of it in March 2021. Everyone thought it was called the Evergreen, but in reality, it was called the Ever Given. Why? It's because little informative videos, whenever they have a ship, they plaster the big name across the side, I assume so that the audience can get an idea for the real name of the ship. And Royal Caribbean using this new livery isn't really helping. It's one thing if a cruise line starts off with no livery, just like Royal Caribbean, then it introduced a slightly darker hull from the superstructure, which actually looks quite nice, and I would have appreciated more custom paint for every single ship, much like Norwegian does, because that actually would have looked really cool on the Oasis, like a colorful city, Hong Kong, and then, yeah, it just would have looked way better. Now, the second thing I want to rant about is another livery problem, and this is Carnival Cruise Lines next. Now, this new livery actually looks nice, and if they started with it from the beginning, it would have been completely fine. But no, they're kind of changing it midway, and it doesn't look good. Like they're new ships. They look good, but it just doesn't feel right having this new livery. And so I say Carnival reverts back because a lot of their cruise ships with the new livery just don't look. They look very odd with that. Yeah. Alright, anyways, the next thing I want to rant about, and probably the final thing, because I couldn't find much else to rant on about that's relevant, is Genting Hong Kong. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys must be thinking, wait, isn't there a Ukraine situation to talk about? Like, can't you talk about that in the cruising industry? Well, I can for a sec. Basically, St. Petersburg, which is actually a big cruising port in the Baltic Sea, is now being closed to every single Western cruise ship, and every single Russian cruise line has said that they will not be cruising to non-Russian ports, and Western cruise lines have cancelled cruises to the Black Sea. And if they do cruise to the Black Sea, they'll just have to go offend a Russian warship, and they'll be completely fine. No, anyways, back to Genting. Basically, they were a big tourism company, actually still are because they're still around, and they had been losing money front, right, and center from the pandemic. But when they began starting cruises out of Hong Kong, Singapore, and Taiwan, respectively, they finally were making a profit, but it was not enough for them to finish the construction of the global dream. Pictured here in its shipyard, and here in its concept form, it would be a rival to the Oasis class, and would be the largest Asian cruise ships ever made. Unfortunately, though, they needed $2 billion to finish the ship, which they just didn't have. and they also needed that money to get the shipyard, which they owned, out of debt. The shipyard declared bankruptcy, then Genting Hong Kong did as well. They repeatedly talked to the German government in the area, asking for them to get funding, warning the economy would get damaged, but they pretty much just ignored them. The economy probably is going to get damaged there, let's be honest, though. No news has been reported of Star Cruises. However, Crystal Cruises has ceased operations. Now, Crystal Cruises had 3 of their ships detained and transferred to the control of another company called V Ships, and their River Cruises fleet was laid up, also transferred to V Ships. Currently, the ships are now anchored near Florida. It's unknown if the 2 big ones, the Crystal Symphony and Crystal Serenity, will be scrapped. However, one of them is barely even 5 months old, so it's probably not going to get scrapped. Just bought. Anyways, that's all I really wanted to talk about. If I missed anything, definitely let me know. I probably missed a lot of things. I don't really care though. And yeah, I really just wanted to touch on the livery change with the Royal Caribbean. I just didn't like what they did with the Wonder of the Seas, but it quickly evolved into the other recent stuff. And of course, I had to mention Ukraine. But yeah. So, will the global dream be bought out by someone else? Will Genting Hong Kong cease to exist very soon? And how long will it take for Royal Caribbean to get rid of that livery? That's a very, very good question.